right. Hello, my name is Harsh Narayan and I play an Indian instrument called the Sarangi. So I come from a very illustrious family of musicians from India. My grandfather is the legendary Pandit Raag Narayan, who is responsible for uplifting the status of the Sarangi to a solo classical instrument. My father is Pandit Brij Narayan, who's a Sarod maestro, and my aunt Aruna, who lives in Toronto, is also a Sarangi player. So with that history, I come into the music scene as a Sarangi player. I started learning the Sarangi when I was 6 years old, and I primarily learnt it from my grandfather Pandit Raag Narayan. The reason being because as a kid, I spent more time with my grandfather because my father was continuously touring the world, and when I would come back from my school, I would always see my grandfather with his instrument and practicing. So I said that this is the instrument I want to start learning, and of course he was kind enough to say, all right, I'll teach you, and that's how my music training started. And of course my guru is also my father, Pandit Brij Narayan. So that's how my journey as a musician started. While I was, of course, highly encouraged to take up music taking it into my life, but my grandfather Pandit Raag Narayan and father Pandit Brij Narayan also said that you also need to have some other experience as well. So with that said, I completed my MBA in marketing, and I worked in the corporate world for over a decade. And it's been very recently that I quit my job and I said that no, I need to focus on my music as a full-time profession. And that's how I'm into this profession right now. But even while I was with my corporate job and I was doing all my studies, I still continued performing wherever I could, wherever I had the opportunity. And with the grace of God and the blessings of my parents, I got to go to some really good platforms all across the world. It was very scary to take that decision to quit the job and get into music full time, because that gives you a monthly steady financial income, which which allows you to be more secure. But then you got to take some risks in life if you really want to achieve something beyond that. And coming from the family that I came from, it gives me a sense of responsibility to keep the Sarangi up there. If not take it forward, at least maintain the same status that he has worked all his life to build. So that's a sense of responsibility, and I think that it's much stronger than just having some security in life and just to have a normal life. Well, it's been just over 6 months that I'm a full-time musician. So far it looks all good. But I'm hoping that it continues that way, because I'm very certain that I would like to dedicate my life to the Sarangi and to our Indian classical music. I would like to talk a little bit about the training style of my grandfather and also the kind of music that he's played on the Sarangi. So on the Sarangi, the music comes from vocal music, but with that he didn't keep it limited to that. He explored so many technical aspects of the Sarangi that was never done before. For example, incorporating the fourth octave and doing very difficult phrases into the fourth octave of the Sarangi. Playing the fourth octave is scary,
With cameras.
the last take was good. That's something that he started doing. And that's how he even trained us to not have any kind of musical limitation into your mind. Just explore the instrument, see how it sounds, see how it vibrates, see how it resonates. And that has been a key difference of perhaps learning from him and the general music training that people have around. As far as the technique of sarangi playing is concerned, it is very different from other board instruments. Like if you see in the violin, you use your fingertips to produce the note, but on the sarangi, we use the cuticle to produce the notes. And that's again something which my grandfather has introduced as a technique to have a much better tonal quality and to have a very fine sound which is very distinct from any other sarangi players. So for other sarangi players, most of them, they would probably play it from their skin above their nail, and they kind of just form. They just allow their skin to die basically to form those grooves, and they play from that. But that's something that my grandfather said that technically it can produce a better sound if we play from the nail or from the cuticle. So that's one major change he started making into sarangi playing. And if you notice, like there are no marks on my fingers even after having rigorous practice sessions, even after performing for so much longer time. So again, it's the fine technique that he's developed and brought into sarangi playing, which allows your hands to be pretty. It has always been used as an accompanying instrument, accompanying with vocalists or accompanying with tabla players while they're doing their solo. And it is very unfortunate that the role of the sarangi and the sarangi player has been limited to just that. My grandfather was accompanying all the great vocalists right from the late 40s. He was a staff artist in All India Radio Lahore, now Pakistan, but that time it was a part of India. And there he was accompanying some of the greatest vocalists of the century like Bade Ghulam Ali Khan Sahab, Pandit Umkarnath Thakur, Ustad Amir Khan Sahab. And but what would happen is, like while he was accompanying, he would always feel that a lot of music is still remaining inside him, and he's not able to play that because he has to stick to a role of an accompanist and not really take over and start playing more than what his accompanying role is. And that's when he decided that I must start playing solo sarangi. And in the year 1950, he commercially recorded with HMV, which is His Master's Voice, is the company's name. And those records were released in the year 1950 all over India and also abroad. And those records would be played in All India Radio, that would be broadcast all over the country. And it was the very first time that people heard the sarangi in a totally different form. And that's when sarangi started taking a shape of a solo instrument. Then after that, in the year 1957, India produced its first long-playing record by Solomon's Mines, is the company's name. And that recording was also done by my grandfather as a solo sarangi. And again, that record became very popular. And that really started changing the scene of the sarangi as merely being an accompanying instrument to being that a solo classical instrument. After that, he started touring Europe from the early 60s, where he met other great musicians, and from there on, the scene for the sarangi completely changed. My biggest inspiration is for music and how I would like to shape my career as a musician. That inspiration comes from my family. But my father, it was very easy for him to pick up the sarangi because he's the son of one of the greatest sarangi players that has ever, lived. And it was very easy for him to pick up the sarangi and said, I would like to do that. But instead of that, he picked up the sarod. And my grandfather never stopped him. It was not that, oh, I play the sarangi and then you must play the sarangi. And that was the same for me as well. I could have easily picked up the sarod because I was watching my father do that like every day. But they just allow you to choose what you want to do. And I very strongly believe that every human being, whether a musician or not, there is some sound of some instrument that really inspires the soul. So in my family, they allow you to, answer that. So a question which your soul is asking you through the instrument. My grand uncle Pandit Chadurlal, he was one of the greatest tabla players, and he was the first tabla player who stepped, outside India into the West and popularized tabla playing all across the world. Pandit Chadurlal. My advice to anyone who would like to learn the sarangi and who would like to be a student of sarangi is, please learn it in the correct way. Please learn it as an instrument like a soloist and not just merely someone who would accompany a vocalist. Of course, that's always good to know, but always keep the dignity of the instrument up there. So my recommendation and my suggestion would be to learn it in the right fashion.